Hello and welcome to the 24th installment of my grading of all of the base game cards. If you want insight into the grading system, check out the description, or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. But let's get started. We begin today's episode with a terrible card that many newer players fall victim to. Martian Rails. First of all, why is it terrible? You cannot influence the income you get from it just by yourself. Cities are just too expensive, and you cannot possibly place a high amount of cities early on to make this card worth it. Secondly, cities are not as popular with higher skilled players as they have been. In a typical 2P game, you won't see more than 3 or 4 cities, and most of them will get placed in the mid to late game. Of course, there are exceptions, for example when playing with Tharsis or Mining Guild, but this gets me to my last point. Martian Rails is expensive and risky. 13 to play it, 3 to buy it, and around 7 to 8 MC for the power prod is so much money. It needs to make you 5 MC or more each gen to be worth it. Compare it to Callisto Penal Mines, for example. That one comes with 2 points and 2 tags instead of 1 and is considered really bad at 3 MC prod. And why is Martian Rails risky? Well, because energy tapping and PSC exist. Overall, Martian Rails is an F tier card. I almost never pick it up. Next up, we have an incredibly influential card, Mass Converter. It's the most efficient power production card, can easily swing Thermalist and Industrialist on its own, can grant you Energizer in one action, grants an incredibly valuable space discount, and is a reasonably cheap science tag on the way to AGT. What's not to like? Well, maybe the 5 science tag requirement, which makes this card incredibly hard to play sometimes. Also, since it doesn't grant any points or immediate effects, it is often a pure bait in the late game and not worth playing anymore, even though it seems like a great play. Overall, it's still an A tier card, just because it's so influential in the early to mid game. When I started watching Terraforming Mars content on YouTube, I thought, why the heck does everyone like Media Archive so much? It just gives you a bit of money in the last gen and that's it. Well, imagine the following. It's Gen 3 and you have to decide between Acquired Company and Media Archives in a draft. If the game goes to Generation 9, you will generate 18 MC with Acquired Company and make a profit of 5 MC. Mathematically, that card has paid off. Let's say at the end of the game the total number of event tags will be 16, which is reasonable. Then Media Archives will also yield exactly 5 MC in the last generation. Are these cards worth the same in this situation? No. Acquired Company requires you to invest your capital much earlier, preventing you from playing another production card that gen. Basically, money now is worth more than money in the future. And with Media Archives, you get an instant return on your investment, which is insanely useful. Of course, you risk that not enough events will be played to make this card viable, but A, that is highly unlikely, and B, production cards only have a short period of time where they are useful, namely the first few gens, while this card is always great in any draft. A few more small upsides with Media Archives. At the end of the game, when you want to play this card, you will have more potential combo cards and discounts like Earth Office, Earth Cat or AGT down to make this card cheaper. That is not true for Acquired Company, for example, a card you want to play in the early game. And lastly, Media Archives is a perfect stall action for the last gen as well, that will make you much more unpredictable. Your opponents might believe that you are unable to end the game due to a lack of money, but with Media Archives you can instantly get a lot of cash to perform 1 or 2 more actions. All in all, I'd say Media Archives is a B tier card. It's great and you should consider picking it up even in the early game. But of course, picking it up also comes with an opportunity cost, not only paying for the card, but also for missing out on the alternative. Next up, we have another great Earth tag, Media Group. This card is insanely scary, and I never want to pass it to someone with a lot of cards, card draw, or generally early in the game. It can just rebate so much cash and combos especially nice with cheap event cards to the point where you can easily play cards and get more money back than you paid. It can get out of hand pretty easily with IC, optimal error breaking, space discounts, general discounts, Earth Office, and so on. Media Group is one of the most generally good cards, it just helps in every strat. For me, this card is A tier, and you should probably pick it up nearly every time you see it. And the last card of today's video is one that I probably pick up way too often, Medical Lab. This card has multiple scenarios in which it can be very good. either in the early to mid game for corps like IC or Mining Guild that love to play a lot of building techs in the early game, or when going for Builder, since it's the best card to be played as an 8th tech and claim the milestone. You get 4 prot, which is really nice, as well as a point and a science tech. Great value. This card is also great in the late game in a fight for Banker, of course, and a great steal sink in the mid game. But I said that I pick it way too often and I mean it. I like it for its purpose in the science strat, but if you pick it in the opening hand as a tech towards AI or AGT, but you don't have a lot of building techs, then you're spending way too much money on a card that is useless other than its tech. Search for Life could have gotten you there for a fraction of the cost. But still, I think Medical Lab is a B tier card overall. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings, or if not, how you would have rated them differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.